joining us for tonight's Snack at Home program. My name is Dawn Lilly. I'm co-chair of the Dance Committee. For those of you who are not familiar with the National Arts Club, we're a 501c3 nonprofit based in New York City with a mission to stimulate, foster, and promote public interest in the arts. Annually, the club offers more than 150 free programs for the public, including exhibitions, theatrical and musical performances, lectures, and readings. For more information about the National Arts Club, you can visit us at nationalartsclub.com or find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We hope that you will have some questions and comments after tonight's program, and if you put them into the chat box, then Laura Daly will take care of them. Miriam Berger will be the moderator for tonight's program. Miriam?
Oh, thank you very much, Dawn. I'm particularly happy to be here because I've known Nancy Allison for many years. We were both members of the dance company of the renowned Gene Erdman. I was in the 1960s and Nancy many years later. And she taught Laban analysis at the NYU Dance Education Program when I was director of the program, and has been teaching with us at the 92nd Street Y for the past 10 years in our dance therapy program. Nancy Allison is a superb dancer who has expanded her creative work beyond performing. She is a film producer, director, choreographer, book editor, and educator. In every medium, her work is concerned with the transformative interdependent processes of perception and expression. She is fascinated by how we perceive the world around us, as well as the world of emotions, sensations, and thoughts inside us, and how these perceptions interact with creative expression. Informed by her training in somatic practices, the Laban movement analysis framework, and classic and contemporary dance techniques, she has created works for professional and student dance companies, taught choreography, technique, and improvisation in studio, conservatory, and university settings. And she has produced and directed site-specific performances and films in the United States and abroad. Nancy creates and seeks projects that challenge and inspire professionals and students to new depths of creative exploration, integration, and achievement. And so I'm most happy to introduce her to you now, sharing her creative work in site-specific dance film. Nancy Allison.
Well, thank you so much, Mimi, for that lovely introduction. And thanks to also Dawn and Laura and the other members of the dance committee for inviting me to speak here this evening. So I'm delighted to be here. Before this crazy year that we've all been living through together, if I asked any of you who are here tonight to describe a dance performance to me, I imagine that many of you would describe something that's happened in a theater, and probably with a proscenium stage. But as far as we know from archaeologists, humans have been dancing on this planet for about 40,000 years. And the great majority of that time, they were not dancing in theaters. They were dancing in particular locations. And the dances they were dancing were developed collectively by groups of people all over the earth, responding intuitively through their senses of time and space and energy to the particularities of their own location on the planet, the landscape, the climate, the flora and fauna. Take, for example, the hula, the sacred hula of ancient Hawaii. That was a dance that was and still is danced on the white sandy beaches on the islands, surrounded by the constant rhythm of ocean waves and the gentle trade winds rustling through the giant palm trees. And imagine for just a moment those ancient Hawaiians, or even contemporary Hawaiians, walking along those white sandy beaches, stepping, kneading the sand with each transfer of weight, foot by foot. And with each transfer of weight, they would also be initiating the natural figure eight movement of the pelvis, shifting side to side, forward and back, and a little bit up and down. And this figure eight movement of the pelvis is enlarged and emphasized in hula. And it also evokes that repetitive movement of the waves. And floating above this undulating base, we have this wonderful gesture language with this enormous variety of hand and arm gestures that are imitative of the rain, the wind, the sun, the palm trees, and all the myriad of tropical flowers. And this whole dance language, the rhythms, the shapes, the energetic variety, is a language that speaks to us of that place and of the values and the inner life of that particular people relating to a particular location. And that's just one example of the rich heritage we have of dances from all over the world. And I imagine many of you, in fact, I know some of you who are listening tonight, practice yourself other dance forms as beautiful and particular and evocative as the hula. So fast forward with me, if you will, through thousands of years of dance to just about the dawn of the 20th century, when the revolutionary idea of a personal dance created by one unique individual's point of view first appeared in Western theatrical dance. And the one revolutionary person I'm thinking of is Isadora Duncan. And many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with her dance. And even if you're not familiar with her dance, you might be familiar with the beautiful Edward Steichen photographs of Isadora taken at the Parthenon in Greece in the 1920s. That was Isadora's second trip to Greece. Her first trip was in 1903. And she went there looking for the universal dance of which she, as a contemporary woman, was a part. And she went to the Parthenon and she spent months there meditating on the stones, and particularly the Doric columns. And after many, many days and days of silent meditation, touching, walking around, just being still with the stones, in her journals, we read that a realization occurred to her that these stones that appeared to be so still and so straight were actually made up of different chunks that were gently swaying from side to side as they rose up from the earth to the sky. And at that moment, she tells us, that she took a breath and she felt this gently flowing movement from her feet, through her torso, through her arms, to the very crown of her head. And that movement became the very basis of her revolutionary technique that she then used to choreograph hundreds of dances that she performed in theaters and throughout the US and Europe and even in Russia. So now I'd like for you to fast forward once again with me through 120 years of dance history to the present moment, this day. And where are we now with dance in a place and representative of either an individual or a people? We are, of course, very much limited. We can't be performing in theaters. We haven't been for a year. But that hasn't stopped choreographers or dancers. Where are they dancing? They're dancing in their bedrooms. They're dancing in their kitchens. They're dancing in their bathrooms. They're dancing in grocery stores. They're dancing on the way to the grocery store. If they're lucky, they're dancing on their lawn, yes? And as they're dancing, they're often filming their dances, their own or maybe someone they're living with. And they're doing it mostly on cell phones. And from this filming, which also began at the dawn of the 20th century, as I'm sure most of you know, some other aspect is offered to a dance through film. And one of the most important things that film offers us is a close-up, the opportunity to be very, very close to this sensuous experience that the dancer is having. It also allows us to be very far away at the same time, or to have multiple angles from which we can, as viewers, see the dance and perceive what the dancer's perceiving. And we can also, with special effects, alter time and energy and many things so that we can create multiple dimensions of reality, which can, in new and contemporary ways, share the individual experiences of the dancers. I've been very privileged in my life to find myself in some extraordinary locations. And in some, I've been invited to make dances and even dance films. And I've been inspired by the work of Isadora and all the people that explored dancing indoors and out after her. And I can say that my credo while I'm making these site-specific works is dance the space. And that process begins, much like Isadora's, in a pre-conscious, non-verbal, sensory response to a particular location, its scale, its textures, its lines, its rhythms, its positive and negative volumes, and sometimes even its history. And then through choreographic and film techniques, I work with film editors and so forth to create a vision, a work, hopefully a work of art, that I can share this with others. And because each location is so different, each film will naturally be very different. The first film that I would like to share with you tonight is a kind of conversation between indoor concert dance and this sensory response to a particular location. The piece is called HAMADRYAD, and it is an adaptation of a dance that was created by Gene Erdman, the American choreographer that Mimi mentioned earlier, in 1948. And in the dance that she made in a studio, she was actually responding to an experience of a particular walk in the woods in the Hudson Valley one summer. And while she was hearing a flutist practice Debussy's Syrinx, she performed it for many years in theaters, and then she taught it to me, and I did the same and adored it. And then later, I decided I wanted to create a film that would bring the dance back to its original location and its original inspiration. And I was joined in this project by filmmaker Paul Allman. And you will see in the film that it's danced by the lovely Miki Orihara, who I taught the dance to. So Nadine. The next two dances that I want to show you were created many years later, or a few years later, in Seravezza, Italy. And that area of Italy is known throughout Europe for the quality of its marble. In fact, Michelangelo got some of his marble from these quarries. The first film is called Marmo, which in Italian means marble. At the time, I was teaching regularly in Italy, and I was offered a brief residency by Fondazione Arcade there to create some site-specific dance films in the quarries. And I invited the Venetian choreographer performer, Laura Boatta, and one of her dancers, Michela Lorenzano, to come with me and create these films. And these two films were created in the process I described before, completely by attuning our sensory experiences to these two very different locations, and then using the film and choreographic techniques to create the films you will see. So I hope you enjoy them. I am thinking of you now. I think of you every day. It was so hard to leave you, knowing how much you were suffering. I still feel the warmth of your body as I press mine against yours. My head against your sternum. My palms against your rib cage. I still smell the sweetness of your skin like perfume. You never smelled of sickness. Never, not even at the end. I still hear your short, raspy breath as I match your labored rhythm to my own. And then, little by little, slow it down. Open it up to the quietest, deepest breath it could be right then. That was all there was, right then. Me and you breathing together. In and out, in and out. I ache for you now. I ache for the loss of you. I don't remember my life before you. You have always been there. Even though a wall of jealousy and mistrust soon separated us. We were just beginning to find our way across that old boundary, I think. Did your spirit know before your body and your mind that you were coming to the end? Is that what began to seep through the wall? Or was it just life? Just time, like water on stone, wearing away drop by drop, until the reality of my universe seemed not far and foreign anymore, but a welcome gift to help you on your unexpected, difficult journey. There is only here, only now, only the breath, in and out, in and out, in and The last piece that I'd like to share with you tonight is an excerpt from a documentary of a project in Tbilisi, Georgia, where I was commissioned to create not a film, but a site-specific dance by the South Caucasus Contemporary Dance and Experimental Art Festival. Georgia is a small country in the Caucasus Mountain region of Eurasia, and it has its own unique heritage of traditional dance, and you may catch a glimpse of that in this excerpt. And it also has its own history of Western theatrical dance. George Balanchine, the great choreographer of 20th century ballet, was Georgian. And it also has a small but very creative contemporary dance scene. And that is what the festival and the producers of the festival were interested in encouraging. The producers chose the location for this piece. And to my surprise, the place they chose was a techno dance club built into the anchorage of a bridge that crosses the Kura River that cuts through the city. So a bridge anchorage, of course, is like a big stone tower. And in the side of this one were 3 levels that we could work on that were very different in scale and texture, and 2 narrow winding staircases that were also quite different. And walking through this evoked the idea of a journey, similar in some ways to Dante's mythic journey in the Divine Comedy. Laura Boatta and Michela Lorenzano from Venice joined me in this project as well. And the film, the documentary, was created by Gigisha Abashidze, a young Georgian filmmaker. The excerpt I'm going to show you is from the live performance. There is theatrical lighting during it, which could not be adjusted for the film. And also, you will see the audience becomes an important part of the location. Nadine? I wanted the piece to go from darkness and struggle and all the things that the young people had to work against, the lack of opportunities that they experienced, the difficulty in finding nourishment in their art form, that I wanted it to go from that dark place to a place of joy. Hi there. I'm not sure how we continue from here.
Are we ready for the Q&A session?
Yes.
Okay, great. So good evening, everybody. My name is Laura Daly. I'm co-chair with Dawn Lilly of the dance committee. And we do have some really good questions. I noticed in the chat that people were very interested in learning more about your collaboration with the Georgian dancers and what that experience was like.
Well, it was a fabulous experience. And it began really with an online kind of audition where I asked, I think there were about 60 applicants, and we chose 8, and Lauren, Michaela was the 9th dancer in there. And I asked them to post a picture of themselves and a little place where I could see them dancing a bit. And also I asked them why they wanted to be part of this project, and to describe a little bit to me about their dance practice. And I don't know if you could tell from this, but we had everybody from a young woman who had no dance experience at all, to several actresses, to people who primary experience was in Georgian traditional dance, to people who had a lot of experience in contemporary dance. And we had 9 days with them in the space. It was very hot and very dirty, and we worked very hard. And the composer, Nika Japaridze, was right there with us. He came in after, I think we had worked together on 5 days. And so we had the whole structure together. And then we had a couple days where we were able to run it with the music and all the different locations, because people had to run from one floor to another and be in special places at special times, which was new to many of them. And of course, we had to move around and through the audience, and also get the audience moving where we wanted them to go. So there were a lot of aspects to that, but they all worked out.
Were there any challenges given the cement floor? Did that influence you at all, also with the kind of choreography that they would have to do on that surface?
Yes, well, it certainly influenced the choice of sneakers, footwear, and because it would be impossible to dance on that cement floor barefoot, because not only was it cement, but as I said, it was a techno dance club. So every night starting around 9 p.m. until something like 5 a.m. in the morning, this same space was full, I mean, full to the brim of young people dancing and drinking, and they were very excited. The producers were very excited because this is a techno dance club, and they'd never seen so much dancing in the club as what we did, because people mostly kind of moved to the music together in a Grateful Dead type of concert experience. But yes, the floor definitely influenced us, as did everything, like the bars that we could make the metal pounding on, and that we could, come around, and those sort of bleachers that the guys especially loved jumping over and around and through, although the girls were just as good at it. But each floor had its own challenges, very much so.
An important part of this is obviously the filming. So your relationship with the cinematographer must be critical to the success. So can you explain how you work?
Well, in each film, that's absolutely true. And sometimes you can be more controlled than in others. In HAMADRYAD, we had wonderful cinematographer, and were able to plan each shot very carefully. And I had previously because I knew the landscape very well, the area where I was working, I knew exactly which part of the dance I wanted to happen where. And so we could set up the lights. We did, in that, for instance, we had to get up at 4:30 in the morning to get that beautiful shot across the pond where the dancer opens her arms. And we had to wait for the light, to be exactly right. In the quarries too, especially the first piece, Marmo, that quarry was very hot and dry, but the sun only came in at certain times. And so we kind of had to rig up this reflecting device and move it around to catch the sun and keep sending it down into the quarry while we were filming. And in Georgia, of course, you saw the film, it was very dark, and the cinematographer and the cameraman, the two cameramen would take quite a long time to set up the shot and get the light right for the filming, which was very different from what you saw there, where they were filming the theatrical light. So each shot there was a lot of time in between, and it was kind of like herding cats to get the dancers back after the lights were set, et cetera, et cetera.
I know that well. For the site-specific dances that you have created, have you ever accounted for or wanted audience participation or any improvisation on the part of the dancers?
Well, in the Georgian piece, of course, we wanted that. We were hoping, and it was clear that the audience wanted to join in, but it was designed to build it to that pitch from the very dark first level, which was, that level of the anchorage was divided into very small places. And so it was like 5 or 6 stations of dancers that did repeated loops of choreography. It was kind of a 5 to 7 minute loop that repeated, and they each repeated their loop about 5 times so that the audience could move around and experience all of them. And everything that we choreographed there was, well, almost everything. Certainly in that section of the first floor, where, yeah, we were training the dancers to be sensitive to the environment. And of course, we built up a certain amount of vocabulary through warming up together and certain things that we wanted them to learn, and were able to use that. But there was a lot of their own improvisation that was then structured. Some dancers were better at structuring their improvs than others. And but we were working with them to do that. And it was beautiful, really beautiful, to see those who hadn't done much improv open up to what they were finding in themselves through working in that way. And even in the last section, where we wanted all the different types of dance they could do. And that I learned from the online questionnaire. We had Georgian dancers. We had some people who did salsa. We had some people who did hip hop. We had, all these different things, and put them together in their smaller groups to try and then get them to make something and keep building that and structuring it from what they brought out of themselves.
From watching the films that you showed, there's certainly a tremendous difference between just straight ahead filming of a live dance performance and creating a film that's the very personal dance that's almost meant to be viewed as a film, not live. And that dealing with nature, nature does not just provide the inspiration, but it becomes the dance partner as well. And there's been so much dance on film these days for all the wrong reasons because of COVID, but this is very different, and it is an art form almost unto itself.
Well, Thank you.
And I'm just wondering, since everyone is trying to find a way to communicate to people through film, through video, because gatherings are not going to happen in any significant way for really quite some time. Do you feel that this form of dance and it being specifically for film is going to have sort of a renaissance because of a particular need that we all have at the moment?
Well, I think that it is having, I'm not sure if I would call it a renaissance, but certainly an explosion because of exactly what you're saying. Dancers still need to dance, and choreographers still need to choreograph, and people who love to watch dance still need to watch it. And this rectangle we find ourselves communicating through is the only option we have right at the moment, or the most available option. And I think that I've seen some beautiful pieces that have been created, even using the Zoom box format internationally, where you have people from all over the world kind of, and the dance pieces itself together that way. I've seen some things more similar to the pieces I've made, where the editing process and the whole universe of the film is more structured and considered. And then I've seen a lot of, just capturing live performance in many different ways. And it depends. Some of it's obviously much more effective than others, and it's going to depend on who's making the work and who's receiving the work, what speaks to them. But I do agree with you that I think we'll be seeing this even as we open back up to live performance.
I think I agree with you. Our last question, how can young dancers become receptive to the possibility of dance filmmaking?
Well, I think a lot of them are more receptive than we older dancers, because they're so used to filming everything about themselves on their cell phones. So they are used to doing that. Whether that makes for a good dance film is another story altogether. But certainly everybody has a camera in their pocket. And some young people I know are incredible at editing right on their cell phone. I am not one of those people at all. But, I think some of them are extremely open to it. University dance departments now are teaching courses on dance film. So many people who do go to university for a dance degree will be open to that. I think festivals also are dance festivals, even before the pandemic, were including some film, maybe in the lobby or maybe in different ways, and offering opportunities, and also opportunities for the young people who are attending dance festivals to work in film. I I haven't found any young people who said to me, "Oh, no, 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 I don't want to be on film."
That's excellent. Well, Nancy, thank you so much. This was wonderful, really wonderful. And I think it opened the eyes of a lot of our audience who don't see dance beyond the more traditional forms. So this was terrific. And thanks to Dawn and Miriam. I know you're out there somewhere. And to the audience, thank you very much for attending. And remember that this was recorded and it will be on our YouTube channel. So if you would like to see it again or tell your friends about it so they can watch it, you can do that.
And
so again, just awesome.
Laura, how is it possible for me to respond to these chat people, the people who've chatted at another time, or once we leave? Can I not respond to them through this?
You can. I am not sure. Nadine.
Yes, you can, Nancy.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So I'll talk to you about how I do that because I couldn't talk to them and to everybody at the same time, and I'd love to respond.
Great. All right, so Nadine will tell you how. to
Okay,
do
great.
that. That's just great. So again, thank you very much. It was fabulous. Thanks to the audience. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the evening and enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Nancy.